nishike asifanikiwe kamwe. Ameteka mitego mingi anawinda roho yangu. Jehova nishike asifanikiwe. Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na shetani. Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na shetani. Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na shetani. Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na shetani. Safari yangu ni ndefu sana, nahitaji kuona uwepo wako. Unishike kwa mkono wako, niongoze nifike sa. Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na shetani. You can join us as we finish. Come on everybody, let's put our hands together for Jesus. Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na Jehova, Jehova nishike, Jehova nishike, nishike mkono nisishindwe na shetani.
Thank you. Let's have, I hear there's another presentation. Who is presenting? Okay. Karibu. Unamevaa kama wa Masai. Ama magiri ama ya.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Albert Jeffer. I'll be performing a song by the name Hakuna Noma. So Hakuna Noma is a modern gospel Mwanzele fusion, a style of music from Mijikenda community from the coast of Kenya. The song was composed and performed by Bosco Bai. Hakuna Noma, which means no worries, is a song that addresses the fact that Jesus paid it all, so we ought to live a life free of worry. After all, who amongst us has to at least 1 hour of their own? The message of this song is drawn from Matthew chapter 6, verse 25 to 33. So welcome and enjoy.
Na kuhenza mulungu wangu, hawatonitenganisha nawe. Nitalinda umoyo wangu, nisije nikenda mbali nawe. Nimezunguka, nimetafuta, hakuna wa kufananishwa nawe. Wewe ni mwamba, tena imara, najificha chini yako Baba. Na kuhenza mulungu wangu, hawatonitenganisha nawe. Nitalinda umoyo wangu, nisije nikenda mbali nawe. Nimezunguka, nimetafuta, hakuna wa kufananishwa nawe. Wewe ni mwamba, tena imara, najificha chini yako Baba. Unapenda Yesu, kwa Yesu kuna ngoma. Unapenda Yesu, kwa Yesu kuna ngoma we. Hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu ni furaha tu. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu ni kusifu tu. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu ni mwanzele tu. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Nimeamua sitoki, siondoki, nimefika. Kumuabudu sichoki, siondoki, naridhika. Nimeamua sitoki, siondoki, naridhika. Kumuabudu sichoki, siondoki, nimefika. Maana ananitosheleza, ananifurahisha, ananibembeleza, tena ananibeba. Ambaye ananitosheleza, tena ananibeba, ananibembeleza, tena ananibeba. Unapenda Yesu, kwa Yesu kuna ngoma. Unapenda Yesu, kwa Yesu kuna ngoma we. Hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu ni furaha tu. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu ni mwanzele tu. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu ni kusifu tu. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Wakiongea karibu yake nasogelea, ukilegea utapotelea. Atoma inatokea kumuchezea, wakiongea karibu yake nasogelea,
Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Kwa Yesu hakuna noma. Thank you.
Mstoke hapo. Kaini tu hapo, mstoke hapo. Kuna hii kuna ingine inaitwanga nakupenda kama sukari. Mnaijua? Okay, mkae tu hapo. We're going to have tena kuna ingine. Okay. You want to perform?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Good afternoon. I'm Chris, but I go by the name Dofki on streaming sites. So you can find my music, but I call them ear candies. Yeah. So I'll be performing Mayday. Mayday is it's a circuit breaker to the people who think that they have failed, but they're about to fail. So they evade from the failure itself. Yeah. So enjoy. Those your classmates, wave your hand, now say their last names. Want to see wave, reduce chance ya kupace, now usi chase. Was dope, it shall sell itself as always. No way, flown a wave, okay. Underline words in a make sense. Short tense, you late to try to defend, but I called up finesse cause you know at your best. Chins up, it's your day, umedozi, it's been long front row. Now I can't eat it, you're the graduate. Marinate your taste, ya throw up cape, you can ease that await. To make sure kinisikiza huta-embrace it nimehabagiza, cause we all got last words, but ni kama ina depend nani ashadipart first. So you better add a tag in that part in your life that shows a chance to make your ends match and become one. Neza go on with the rap, though this part my other character may cover rap na kuimba. You can see I'm sober, utatika unangoja ona. Mina jiongelesha juu, bora ndio na menta watanita by. Pole sijaficha by, product tena muda inayoyoma. Ukijikuta ndio utajuta. Breaking bounds, breaking bounds, breaking bounds. So this goes to the dreamers in the building. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. Let's make this afternoon a little bit more fun. There's a request from Madam Jackie about nakupenda kama sukari. So they said you people know it, but let's have one presentation and then we have an interlude. What do you think? Yes. So, who is online? The band, be preparing for that. Preparing for the sukari. Collins and Milanzi, we'll give you 10 minutes only. We want to hear nakupenda kama sukari. Milanzi, Collins, whoever who is ready, this is your time. It's 2:45. Are they ready? Collins, are you ready? Milanzi, are you ready?
Hello, can you hear me?
Milanzi, are you ready?
Can you hear me? Can somebody confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you.
Zoom online, Zoom. Zoom.
Nakupenda kama sukari, nakwambia kweli si siri. Ingekuwa mimi tajiri, ningekununulia gari. Nakupenda kama sukari, nakwambia kweli si siri. Ingekuwa mimi tajiri, ningekununulia gari. Nakubali mimi si tajiri, wako hawakupata matajiri, madereva na marumani na maleba wenye mashahiri, wengi waja kwako sisiri, mradi watutie dosari. Mpenzi wangu we don't worry, usisikie za watu story. Nakupenda kama sukari, nakwambia kweli sisiri. Ingekuwa mimi tajiri, kununulia gari. Nakupenda kama sukari, nakwambia kweli sisiri. Ingekuwa mimi tajiri, ningekununulia gari. Mapenzi wala sio mali, usichoke kula ugali. Wako wanaokula wali, wanaomba warudishe mali. Na kila siku situkisali, mwisho tutakula asali. Kichuna changu we don't worry, usisikie za watu story. Nakupenda kama sukari, nakupenda wewe. Mimi tajiri, kununulia gari. Nakupenda kama sukari, nakwambia kweli sisiri. Ingekuwa mimi tajiri, ningekununulia gari. Tucheze sote, tucheze sote. Hapo, 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 hapo. Mapenzi wala sio mali, usichoke kula ugali. Wako wanaokula wali, wanaomba warudishe mali. Na kila siku tukisali, mwisho tutakula asali we. Kabebi kangu, usisikie za watu story. Sukari, nakwambia kweli sisiri. Ningekuwa mimi tajiri, ningekununulia gari. Nakupenda kama sukari, nakwambia kweli sisiri. Ingekuwa mimi tajiri, ningekununulia gari. Thank you. Asante sana.
School of Music and Media. You need to be doing this. Hata siko najua some of you. Wewe umejificha tu. Sijaona some of these students. Kumbe wanachapa muziki. Na msitoke hapo. Kaeni tu hapo. Online presentation. Ako tayari? Ama niite band tena? Okay. Nasikia ako tayari. Immediately after that, naweza ita band. Kaeni tu hapo band. Online presentation. Go ahead.
industry. So now, the background for music education in Malawi. Malawi was a British colony from 1891 to 1964. So during this time, the British introduced education. One of the subjects was music. They introduced music with the purpose of introducing Malawians to music so they could sing during worship. So in 1964, Malawi received its independence. And when it received its independence, Malawi adopted music as one of the subjects in the education system. However, Malawi did not have the capacity to implement the subject due to lack of qualified music teachers. So as years went on, reviews took place, up to 3, according to Chirwa and Naidu 2014 and Janunka 2005. But these reviews were not implemented because of the same reason of lack of qualified music teachers and lack of teaching and learning resources. In 2013, the Ministry of Education and Science and Technology introduced a new subject which they called Performing Arts Education, which included music, drama, and dance as its 3 components. The aim of this subject was to replace music education. However, to this very date, the subject is yet to be implemented. This is according to MOES 2013, Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, that is. Prior to the introduction of this subject in 2012, the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology made a call to the universities and colleges in Malawi to introduce programs that would respond to the newly introduced subjects. However, one of the colleges in Malawi, called Domas College of Education, was the only institution of higher learning that responded positively to the call. So, as we can see here, these are the statistics of how they responded to the call. In 2016, they started the program of music, of performing arts, where they had 6 students. In 2017, they had 9 students. In 2018, they had 19 students. In 2019, they did not have any students in the program. In 2020, they had only 15 students. So we can see that they made their efforts. However, the efforts were not adequate enough to cater for the whole country. In addition to that, the students were not allowed to major the subject performing arts. They were only given an opportunity to minor it. So we can see that now there are very few of them. On top of that, they are not adequately trained for the subject. So that is a challenge that Malawi faced with the newly introduced subject. Now, with that in mind, let's look at the current state of music education, of the music industry in Malawi. Studies have shown that there is a disconnect between music education and the music industry sectors. I would like us to imagine, before I go any further, to imagine a situation where you have your loved one and they are suffering. So you take them to the hospital. The only solution is that they should be operated on. But at the hospital where you have gone to, they are telling you that they are going to help you, but you have to consent with the fact that they do not have anybody qualified for the job. So anyone will come to do the job, although they are not qualified. So given that kind of a scenario, I can only imagine what could be going on in your mind. Having a pen and a form in your hands to sign whether to agree or not, but you know the life of your loved one depends on that operation. But there's no qualified one, but there's somebody who's volunteering to do the work. Apparently, this is the situation of music education in Malawi, because studies have shown that most positions which are supposedly to be occupied by music professionals have been taken or are taken by non-music professionals. Secondly, studies have also shown that most top musicians in Malawi are not music graduates. And lastly, most qualified musicians in Malawi are not practicing it at all. So that can take us to ask questions. Number one, where are the music graduates? And number two, what is the relevance of music programs in the Malawian universities? What is the relevance? Another scenario is to do with the university students at WIL. WIL is work integrated learning. This is a component in the program where students are given an opportunity to go in the industry, to interact with the people in the industry, to learn, to have their experience, to have an actual experience which can coordinate what they have learned and the actual need in the industry. According to Bennett, 2012, work integrated learning opportunities allow students to apply their knowledge in real world settings, helping them transition from university to professional practice. With this in mind, we could expect university students to perform well. However, the minutes from a meeting which was held at Malawi University of Science and Technology, MUST, which is one of the only two universities in Malawi that offer music programs. The minutes indicate that the students who went to WIL in this year of 2022 most of them failed to perform according to the minimum standards. So that can bring us back to the same question: what is the relevance of the music programs in Malawi? Now, where the problem really lies, according to this study, number one is the absence of music education in primary and secondary schools. Because in primary and secondary schools, that's where foundation is built. But the absence of music education in those levels would only mean that the students that are going to be studying music in the university will go there without a proper foundation. Secondly, lack of teacher music training programs in the universities to prepare teachers for their work. And thirdly, there's a disconnect between the music programs and the industry needs. So talking about lack of music education in primary and secondary schools, Hallam 2010 suggests that early music education is essential for the development of musical skills and provides the foundation for lifelong engagement with music. Which means now that if a student is engaged in the music education as during their early stages, they are likely to engage with music as they grow, unlike the situation that we are seeing in Malawi. And also, Banda 2021 asserts that the absence of music education in early schooling stages creates a significant gap in musical literacy and appreciation, which impacts students' ability to engage fully in music programs at tertiary level. The lack of teacher music training programs in the university is another challenge that we have seen. Teachers cannot teach what they have, what they do not know. And this is asserted by Paul et al. 2008 on page 395, who say the boundaries of what teachers can teach are determined by what they themselves understand, which means if they don't understand something, it is very unlikely for them to teach it. So the lack of these trainings in the university is what is creating now the chances of not having the music education, because there will be nobody who can teach what they don't know. So suggested solutions. Number one, this paper suggests that there should be an introduction of teacher music training programs in the universities. Secondly, there should be an introduction of bridging courses for music programs, because the students are coming with a background that lacks music. Therefore, bridging courses will help them at least to build the confidence and to know the basics that they need to know before they engage in the program of the universities. Thirdly, there's a need to implement music education in primary and secondary schools. And lastly, number four, there's need to reform music programs to better align with the industry needs. So in conclusion, this paper has highlighted significant challenges that hinder the development of music professionals. The development of music professionals, which include the absence of teacher music programs, the absence of music bridging courses in the universities and colleges, the absence of music education at primary and secondary school levels. So to address these challenges, there's a need to introduce teacher music training programs in the universities and colleges. There's a need to introduce music bridging courses. And thirdly, there's a need to implement music education in primary and secondary schools. And also, lastly, there's a need to reform the university music programs to better align with the industry's demands. With this view, I would like to thank you for listening. These are my references. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Milanzi, and I want to appreciate that you've you've used your time well, and your presentation is quite clear, but I hope the audience has picked questions that we'll be able to engage with him. Let's have Collins next, and then Kevin, then the band. Where is the band? Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. Or we ask our friend from South Africa to sing. Kevin, Collins, are you there? Yeah. Collins, it's your time. Collins Mutiaba Wafula. Collins, can you unmute? We can't hear you. Collins is trying to sort out the audio and related challenges. Can we have Kevin? Where's Kevin? Kevin? Yes, Kevin, come in.
Are you able to hear me first of all?
Yes. Please, 10 minutes.
Okay, good. Good. Please, just a quick moment. I do need to, it's a bit noisy. I don't know if you can hear the sounds. Is it too noisy or I can go on?
Go on.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to share the slides. Please confirm if you can see the slide, just quickly.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, good. All right, so my topic is influence of online music education on academic performance of music students in selected private schools, in selected private secondary schools in Kenya. So I'll go right ahead to share with you a bit of the introduction, where the study was actually developed. The concept was created during the COVID periods. Of course, the COVID periods have ended now, but still online education remains relevant and is very much used within the mainstream learning systems. And so the study within the findings stands independent of even the COVID period itself. And so the study is still relevant pertaining to online education on its own, without necessarily including COVID, although COVID is included in the background and even in the literature study. I will move on to the statement of the problem, where we could see that traditional teaching methods offer an advantage for music teachers as they enhance interactions and can allow teachers to and they can allow teachers to identify students who are struggling. And these are factors that influence academic performance of students. However, coming in during COVID period, a lot of adoption of online learning took place. With the introduction of online learning, again, this came with a presentation of new challenges or opportunities in the learning of music. And so it was necessary to establish how online learning complements the traditional face-to-face teaching. and the outcome for student engagement and learning of practical skills. So the motivation again is to establish whether online learning enables personal connection between the teachers and students, whether it ensures increased engagement, understanding, and imparting of skills in absence of face-to-face facial expressions and nonverbal cues present in a physical music learning environment. And so again, this study aimed to address the problem by analyzing how the use of online learning influenced the academic performance of music students in select private secondary schools. So the study was carried out in Nairobi County, Kenya. I'll move on to the objectives. So the first objective which is was to establish how online music learning influences student engagement in select private secondary schools in Nairobi County, Kenya. Secondly, to examine how online music learning affects the practical skills development of private secondary students in Nairobi County, Kenya. Third, to assess the influence of students' attitudes towards online music education on their academic performance in selected private secondary schools in Nairobi County, Kenya. And fourth, to determine how teachers' capabilities in online music education and instruction affect students' academic performance in music education in selected private secondary schools in Nairobi County, Kenya. The research questions tie to the objectives, so I will move on and go to the significance. Some of the significance of the study is that the study will provide insight to music educators and students on the kind of skills and competencies necessary to thrive in an increasingly online learning environment. Again, I could give insight into types of training or curricula teachers may need, and also to investigate certain kinds of infrastructural gaps and challenges in online music education. The scope of the study was that the study was situated in Nairobi County, and for various reasons, one being that it's very cosmopolitan and it has a good range of schools that the researcher could be able to gain varied experiences and backgrounds that could be very valuable within the study. Again, we study focused on private secondary schools, and respondents were teachers and students, and gaining the experiences and views of teachers and students. The literature review touches on the experiences mostly during COVID, but still enlightens on the opportunities and challenges in online of online learning within music education. Within the literature review, we could see the education sector, how it was after the onset of COVID, where now the take-up of online learning became much more mainstream, and I think everybody had to deal with it. And then there were some challenges that arose, for example, lack of in-person contact in online education. Another challenge that arose was the reduction of learning time for online music learners. Again, some of the challenges were to do with, could be technological matters. Some of them were the preparedness of teachers and students to handle online music education. And then we have the attitudes towards online education. So again, the overall consensus in the literature is that music education needed adapting to disruptions, and the adoption of the online learning was sort of allowed learning to take place. There are some benefits of online education. For example, flexibility in study times, there's quick data collection, reduced costs of learning processes, and that it encourages collective work. Again, there's other studies that indicate the gaps in teacher training and investment in technological infrastructure. where it pertains online music education. Now, the theoretical frameworks that I used were Lewin's change management model, and this has encompasses 3 change steps that capture an unfreezing phase and then changing and refreezing. And so you could see that in the music education sector, there was a need to identify the change that was necessary, consolidate all the resources or mindsets towards the change, and to proceed by solidifying into that change. The other theoretical framework was Kotter's 8-step change model. So in this model, it encourages the creation of a systematic 8-phase framework designed to assure change in a given environment. So, so again, Kotter, he advises on the need to visualize and create short wins. So this gradual realization of the change process helps to clarify on the wider goal. So those were the 2 theoretical frameworks in the study. The conceptual framework, as you can see here, we have the independent variables, which were student engagement, skill development, student attitude, and teachers' capabilities. We have the intervening variables, which pertain education policy, online education culture, political goodwill, technological advancement, and the learning environment. And we have now the dependent variable, which are the music students' academic performance in various areas pertaining practical performance, their test scores, the music creativity, and even their technical skills. So the methodology employed an exploratory research design, which is very appropriate for delving into previously unencountered phenomena or events. In this case, the adoption, the complete adoption of online learning, especially from the COVID period and moving forward, and how, again, online learning now is being more accepted within mainstream culture, but still looking at exploring how it's online learning still affects students and teachers, and also their academic performance in music. We have the population of the study, which were 82 music teachers and 450 students, from which a sample size of 20 teachers and 50 students was taken. Of the sampling in the sample size and sampling procedure, I use purposive sampling when selecting the schools where participants were chosen, but as well, besides that, again, I did use some random sampling again later on in selecting schools as well from a wide number of schools. And then there was also random sampling for when selecting music teachers and students within the population, and also for the sampling the sample size. Then we have the pre-test, which was done earlier on, and there was consistency in the research instrument for collecting the data, and then the research tool employed the use of open-ended interviews to collect relevant data, and the questionnaire survey to collect, and was an interviews that were carried out to collect the data. The data collection procedure needed a research permit, and which was sought from NACOSTI again, and this allowed me to now then go to the county commissioners and to gain county approval and be able to approach schools to carry out the data collection. Now, for the data analysis, it's a qualitative study, and so the information was first collected and then coded, and then classified into phrases or into categories, and then we have our themes that came up, and thematic analysis was then done, and I was able to come up with the findings based on the themes within the data collected. There are again ethical considerations pertaining to the standard forms of research, where respondents are given the information beforehand. They're allowed to opt out of the study if they need to at any point, and consents forms were given out and signed, and respondents were able to respondents were also informed of the benefits of the study, and there was no there was no monetary benefit to the study, but they were able to participate freely and openly within the study. Now, to the findings of the research. So the themes that developed from the research were influence on student engagement and participation, development of music skills and creativity, technological integration and adaptation, and teacher adaptability and skill development. So onto the first theme, we can see where students share some of their thoughts. For example, a student said, for example, a teacher observed that students seemed more engaged when using interactive tools during the lessons, especially when we incorporated virtual instruments. But despite, so these are some of the benefits of using, is that students had an inclination and an affinity towards technological adoption. Despite these advantages, some students reported challenges. For example, a student said, it was easy to lose concentration because of distractions like my phone or being at home, but the instant feedback helped me stay on track. It was also relatively clear that the type of tools and techniques applied influence the outcome, together with the level of distraction one student can handle when learning online or from home or in any other different location or setting. Now to the second theme, development of music skills and creativity. One teacher observed, online music education has exposed students to a new way of learning, such as using virtual instruments and software that they would not have encountered in a traditional classroom. So this statement emphasizes how the digital environment provided students with access to innovative tools that could enhance their musical abilities. Another student shared an experience saying, learning online made me think outside the box because we had to create music using apps and programs we never used before. So this comment reflected how the online format encouraged students to be more creative in their approach to music making. Now, while students and teachers engaged in the social musical practices in real-time online settings, so the affordances of developing their musical skills during the online lessons, they also agreed that it is challenging to capture all the nuances within music learning within an online or virtual platform. All right, so the third theme was technological integration and adaptation. And here, basically the use of technology in the provision of feedback was found to be useful in developing a good rapport between teachers and the learners. In the fourth theme, teacher adaptability and skill development, overall, the interviews illustrated how teachers adapted to online music education by acquiring new skills and using digital tools, which played a crucial role in maintaining effective instruction and supporting student learning. Moving on to the conclusion, the results showed that online music learning influenced the extent of students' engagement in selected private secondary schools in Nairobi County, Kenya. It was shown in the findings that students who enrolled in online music lessons were more active when these lessons involved multimedia. The study also showed that there were issues with online music learning in as much as it affected practical skills development among the private secondary schools students in Nairobi County. There are also issues seen where students were somewhat effective in enhancing their theoretical understanding of music. Nevertheless, they chalked at executing the knowledge they had gained. And to round up, some of the recommendations from the study, recommendations for music learning, for example, is that in order to maintain and promote student interest in online learning, it is suggested that schools incorporate the use of professional learning management systems that have features like videos, quizzes, and feedback options. And since teachers' competencies within online education are very critical, it is also recommended for that training should encompass not only the awareness of how to use virtual classroom platforms, but also that there are different methods of teaching and instructional approaches suitable within a virtual classroom are provided for teachers and also for teacher training. And also prospects of developing teamwork and collaboration among students, though it may not go to the extent it was expected. In order to achieve this, a teacher has a responsibility to provide assignments and/or projects that foster teamwork within virtual teams. And finally, recommendations for further research. So again, recommendation with the aim of comparing effects of online and conventional face-to-face instrumental music instruction in private secondary schools. So potentially this research could compare how students participate in the classroom, how they acquire practical skills, their imagination and academic accomplishments. Also, longitudinal studies that follow up on the students for several years after participation in online music education are lacking at the moment. And more of this research should be very beneficial in allowing insight into continuous online learning of students within music education and applying this online music education platforms within music education. And very lastly, future research should also investigate the efficiency of the different technological tools and media that may be used in online-based music learning. This includes assessment of various virtual musical instruments, including music composing software, and examining various learning environments and possibilities of pioneer technologies, such as virtual reality and augmented reality. Studies in this sector would assist in choosing and executing the most appropriate instruments for improving on the teaching of the music subject in private secondary institutions. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time, and I will end there.
Thank you, Kevin Mwita, for your presentation. I'm sure the audience have taken down questions, so we'll have the Q&A later. Let's have, I think he's prepared. Let's have Dr. Messi.
Jambo, not Karibu. Thank you. Yeah, this is my study, my research presentation. I'll firstly introduce myself again. Yeah, Dr. Messi Mazivandira. I'm going to present under the title called The Origin of Chifasi Music Genre, a Historic Perspective. The next slide is so can someone come and help me? There are two slides here. I want to focus on one slide. Thank you. Let me also say that this study is from my PhD research, where I took one of the objectives. So I've already mentioned the title of my paper. University of Venda is located at Limpopo. This place, Venda, you can find it on the northern part of South Africa. So, Bavenda have their own unique music. They have, which includes traditional music, dance, their attire, and their own performances. So that's where my research my research paper was done, and it was specifically conducted in Wembe district. I conducted in this area because that's where most of Bavenda are found. It was also easy for me to be able to gather the relevant data. So, audience, remember this is not just a presentation, but I also want you to participate in this presentation. So feel free to go with me. Thank you. The first slide here, it's introduction and background of the study. My material are scattered all over. Please forgive me for that. Introduction and background. Overview of the presentation. Some of the items are there, which include introduction of Chifasi music genre, the importance of studying its origin, purpose to provide a historic perspective on the emergence and cultural role of Chifasi music within the Bavenda community. So before I move, I just want to read or to present something which covers all my studies so that I must be on time. Chifasi is a traditional music. This is one of Bavenda traditional music which is performed by boys and girls for socialization and entertainment purposes. Colleagues, there is more in this music genre. For example, it serves as a tool to teach moral values such as discipline, respect, and love. This study aims, okay, let me start here. This study aims to document the origin and historical performances of Chifasi to preserve its traditional value and explore the role in teaching communal values and cultural practices among Bavenda children. By using face-to-face interviews and focus group, I have managed to gather indigenous knowledge to offer insights into Chifasi's significance and assist This study, in fact, is going to assist adjudicators in traditional music competitions. Also, this study seeks to preserve Chifasi as an integral part of Bavenda cultural heritage, benefiting both the community and broader efforts to safeguard indigenous knowledge system. I have already defined Chifasi performance. This is how it is performed. Some of the pictures, because of time, I won't display them because I've already explained that it is played or performed by boys and girls, specifically for that, its origin. Characteristics, rhythms, instruments, and vocal style, dance movements associated with Chifasi. It also includes those items. Historical origins. Chifasi has been a vibrant thread in the tapestry of the Bavenda culture, especially among children, offering them a fascinating blend of entertainment and socialization. Children or young children, they engage in rhythmic clapping and spirited dancing, embodying the essence of their cultural heritage. In these joyful moments, Chifasi becomes more than just a performance. It transforms into an exhilarating playground where friendships are formed and community bonds are strengthened. Through the captivity movement and catchy songs, children not only enjoy themselves, but also learn invaluable life lessons about cooperation, respect, and cultural identity. Cultural, social role of Chifasi. Entertainment and socialization, I've already mentioned that. Cultural significance, role of ceremonies and cultural preservation. Chifasi is in modern times. It has changed because of time, like other performances. The way it was played, the way or where they were played, originally Chifasi was played away from their homes. Sometimes in Chivenda they called Koroni. It's next to their homes. But it needs a playing ground where children can perform without any disturbance. But because of time, its setting was changed. Now, it's included in the formal events festival, which was not like that before. It is also performed in educational programs to fit the contemporary context. Innovation, for example, I recorded my album including modern type of instruments. For those who get into Google or they listen to my music, it has the elements of jazzy, but the lyrics are the ones that are cultural. Chifasi instruments. Traditional instruments, original instruments used in Chifasi. They used hands, feet, mouth, and ululating. In Chivenda, they called mupururu. Matombo, this was done before. And they were using tins and sticks for rhythms. Modern adaptation, I've also indicated that. Indigenous knowledge impact on community and identity. Chifasi, music genre, and Bavenda identity. Reinforcing cultural pride and identity. Music as a tool for education. Role in passing down traditions and values. The framework that was used, this study adopts an ethno-musicological approach to explore the cultural, social, and historical context of Chifasi music within the Bavenda community. Findings and discussion. Preserving Bavenda cultural heritage, showcase its adaptability, maintaining traditional elements, and it emphasizes Chifasi's significance in fostering community cohesion and sustaining the Bavenda identity. Before I move to the other slide, I also want to share with you the indigenous knowledge benefits related with this kind of music. Documenting Chifasi music offers several benefits related to indigenous knowledge, especially in preserving its cultural significance. By capturing the history and practices of Chifasi, we help ensure that this important aspect of Bavenda heritage is not forgotten. Teaching children about Chifasi helps them understand the cultural roots and gives them sense of pride. Children learn about their heritage through music. They can connect with their ancestors and continue these traditions, keeping them alive for future generations. Summary of the results. Historically and cultural significance. Traced the origin of Chifasi music in Bavenda culture, focusing on the traditional practices, gender roles. Instrumental accompaniment highlight its role in communal expression and cultural identity. Adaptation and relevance. Chifasi music has evolved to incorporate modern influence while maintaining traditional elements, emphasizing its continued importance in preserving Bavenda heritage. I used qualitative approach, in-depth interview and observation were used. The study African musicology. The study explores the musicological aspect of Chifasi, including its historical content performance, and instruments. Sources cited works from Ramugondo, one of the authors who talk about Chifasi, Mbali and Mashianuki, and Chikobi 2017 were used to support the historical cultural analysis. Conclusion: these are some of the subheadings that I talk about Chifasi. So before I leave, I just want to show you how Chifasi is performed. Here, we find boys and girls. They make two lines, which I will I will spend time to demonstrate this, but let me explain. I wanted you maybe to demonstrate, to find 5 boys on the other side, girls on the other side, but let me explain so that we must be on time. Boys on the other side, girls on the other side. So, when they play this game or a performance, one boy comes to that side, and then he goes to the line of the girls as a sign. It was like a game, in fact. So when he got that side, he bow. Ngachivenda, we say urosha, as a sign of she wants to, or she is in love with that girl. From there, they dance in the center, and then they go to the other line of the boys. That's how they do, repeatedly, and then until they finish. So, Chifasi was also performed not during the day. It was performed during the night when there is a moonlight. It was done for a purpose. And then one other thing that I can also share with you, which is so interesting, I've already shared this, that they learn respect, they learn discipline. When they dance together, they do one thing at one time. That's why they were having a discipline. So there are so many things that I can talk about these performances. It's so interesting. Thank you.
Maybe having a video that maybe can see. Okay. I'm just requesting that if maybe you can see a video of it. Yes. Can you just type it? Technician. Yes. I want them to see.
This is how it is performed. Unfortunately, it's very short. And then let me go to another video. It's so interesting to young people. I just want to know, do you have such a performance in your culture that is only performed by boys and girls? Do you have? What do you call it? Sorry? It's different? Okay. Do they perform like this or they have their own way of performing? Oh, okay.
We are sharing. Share screen.
So this kind of performances or dances are disappearing in our areas, so it's a problem. So I'm writing this paper so that it can be preserved. So, okay. Okay. So, yeah. In these days, people are dancing it in festivals and weddings. So originally, it was not danced like this. Even the style, if you can see now, it was not done like that originally. Yes. So that's how it is. Thank you.
Tumpigie makofi tena. Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. First. Let's now have Collins. Is he ready? After Collins, we have Asajile. We have Jerome. So let's have Collins. Is he ready? I hope you have questions for the Shifasi, so that we'll also ask her a few questions. Collins? Okay. Collins, go ahead.
My paper today is
themed Artificial Intelligence in the Arts, Exploring Precognition, Extrasensory Perception, Telepathy, and Other Psychic Abilities. The paper, or rather the essay, seeks to explore the connection between artificial intelligence and the arts, emphasizing cognition, ESP, extrasensory, and telepathy. It advances AI technology that both challenge and enhance traditional notions of creativity and consciousness in creative expression. I wish to explore the ways in which artificial intelligence can mimic human abilities or perhaps exceed them, raising questions about the nature of intuition and inspiration plus imagery. The study looks at AI's ability to access and understand human emotions, and it leads to discovery of data-driven empathy as a telepathic communication tool. There are key definitions in this paper of mine, which I'll begin by explaining about artificial intelligence in the arts. Artificial intelligence in the arts is the use of artificial intelligence technology to produce, evaluate, and improve artistic works in a variety of media such as visual arts, imageries, music, literature, and theater. Exploring precognition. This is investigating the study of capacity to foresee or learn about future events before they happen, and which is understood as precognition. Extrasensory perception describes the capacity to perceive the world using senses other than the conventional five senses, which are sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Psychic abilities. This is a variety of talents that allow people to see or interact with data and occurrences outside of their usual sensory range, as referred to as psychic abilities. Introduction. Artificial intelligence is the replication of human intellect in computers that have been designed with human-like thought and learning processes. The discipline uses a wide range of technologies, from basic neural networks to sophisticated algorithms, to make robots capable of doing activities that normally call for human intellect. These activities include comprehending natural language, identifying patterns, making decisions, and solving problems. Important aspects of AI. Various important aspects of AI, which include machine learning, which is the branch of so that they may be explicitly programmed to make predictions or judgments. Natural language processing. This field studies how language is used to communicate between people and computers. Computer vision is the study of being able to perceive, analyze, and comprehend visual data inside environment. Robots, artificial intelligence is essential to creation of autonomous robots that can help around the house or in the industrial manufacturing. Artificial intelligence algorithms that simulate human expert decision-making process. Problem statement. This paper seeks to examine topics like precognition, extrasensory perception, telepathy, and psychic abilities which are deployed in the use of artificial intelligence in arts, that poses important concerns about the nature of creativity, consciousness, and the human experience through imagery and also through innovation. Although artificial intelligence technology can produce creative works that emulate human creativity, little is known about how these technologies will affect conventional artist expression and the philosophical ideas they seek to portray. Objectives. The objective of this paper seeks to improve artistic creation and bring the A game in the art industry. It also seeks to represent psychic phenomena and their ability in advancing creative arts. It also to examine human AI collaboration. It also seeks to examine philosophical issues that encourage the creation of arts, or rather the creativity of art. It also seeks to encourage ethical conversation in so far as technological and human integration is concerned. It also seeks to contribute to artistic innovation. That is, for instance, imagery and all other aspects of innovation and artistic per se. It also seeks to inspire geospatial imagery technology. In this sense, it seeks to merge between creative arts and imagery in solving any technological issues so as to create solutions. Last but not least, the objective of this study or this paper seeks to provide solution to quandaries of humanitarian phenomena, for instance, conflicts, natural calamities, and man-made problems. Research questions. The research questions are creative authenticity, interpretation of psychic phenomena, cultural perspectives, philosophical implications, and ethical issues. Methodology. Methodology deployed an algorithm design which create AI systems that can produce artwork that explores topics like telepathy, ESP, which is extrasensory perception, and precognition, which is deployed to train the AI using machine learning methods such as neural networks, using datasets that contain pertinent creative styles and materials in the creation of artwork. Interactive installation. It provides AI-powered installation that encourages audience participation and let people explore and think critically on their own about the idea of psychic powers, which creates experiments that allow users to interact with AI in a manner similar to intuitive or psychic communication. Exploration of AI artistic projects. An exciting nexus of technology, creativity, and critical thinking is represented by the investigation of AI creative endeavors, which artists are using as artificial intelligence more and more to push the limits of creative expression and have deeper discussions about the social ramifications of technology. Discussions. Artificial intelligence in the arts is changing the creative environment by providing new instruments and approaches to artistic expression. AI systems are capable of producing unique pieces of literature, music genre, and art, stretching the definition of creativity, and hence creating an awareness in generative creativity and artificial intelligence. Generative adversarial networks and other artificial intelligence approaches are being used by artists to create works that combine the creative powers of humans and machines, merging the two to come up with perfect creative works, acts of creation. AI helps artists collaborate by providing fresh approaches to ideas, ideation, concept refinement, and content generation. This relationship can lead to new solutions that challenge established concepts of authorship. AI makes it possible to create interactive art pieces that react instantly to audience participation by encouraging speakers to actively participate in creative processes. This interaction improves the overall experience of art. AI technology is to artistic forms like performance, music, and visual arts, and media experiences that are a rich and varied field for both creative and scientific investigation when artificial intelligence is combined with the study of cognition, extrasensory perception, telepathy, and other scientific abilities. The conversation between technology, creativity, and the human experience will only get deeper as we make our way through this changing landscape. It will encourage us to consider not just how we view the world, but also how we interact with one another. This voyage forces us to accept the mysteries surrounding human and the potential for growth, understanding and rapidly changing world. At the footnote of this presentation, I sum up my presentation by analyzing the short story of the author by Chinua Achebe, echoed by the founder of this noble university, Ian Kabak, whom Nyambane of Ridiculous would famously call Mantoro in his comedy scenes. That is Samaya by Shamak, as it is written in the book of Joshua chapter 5, verse 1, so thy fulfilled word. May God bless you all. As I also wish to say special thanks to Professor Ochola and Professor Kipchioni, as I commend and I say I now realize why you reserved my admission to date 15 years later after being admitted to the School of Kabarak of School of 2009. The same admission for the Confederates. Please reserve the same admission for the Confederates Institute of the University. Thanks and God bless you all.
So much, Collins, for your presentation. I hope don't tire. They still, no, they kuna chai, so musilale. I think we have 2 more presentations. We'll have Asajile from the Technical University. Karibu Asajile.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, guys. I can't hear you. Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Asajile Mwakalinga. I am an alumni here. I did my undergrad here. I'm now almost completing my Master of Music in African Music Studies at the Technical University of Kenya in Central Business District in Nairobi. Yes, and when I was writing this paper, it's just an article. I wrote it for the special issue of Jahazi publication. My affiliation was fully the Technical University of Kenya. So I know that the next one will be coming out as the Kabarak University. Yeah, Kabarak made me, so. You say East or West? Thank you. I'm not a very good fluent English speaker, and I don't care, it's okay because I'm not a Mzungu. Yeah, if you want me to speak until tomorrow, we can do that in Kiswahili. So, since the previous presenters just told us what happens with music production and AI, my paper is about an instance that I came across where AI was used in the music production. So it was out of curiosity. That's why you can see the title is a question: whose voice is this? You know the music, you don't know the face, you don't know the voice behind it. And so it's whose voice is this? Unveiling the faceless soundtrack of Kenya's 2024 protest, of course by Asajile Mwakalinga from the Technical University of Kenya. Introduction. This paper, as I've said, was out of curiosity. Who is this person? And why this? It was very hard for me to find him because I just know a YouTube channel written Mr. Guy. I wake up, I find that song, and then I wanted to know more about that. Let's get to the background and understand the background of the Finance Bill 2024 that brought up all these things. For the sake of people who are not Kenyans, or, okay, you can be someone who is not a Kenyan, but you understand, because I also understand, fine. So for the sake of those people who do not know, the government was supposed to pass a bill called Finance Bill 2024, which imposed so much more taxes to the people. So the young people, led by the Generation Z, decided to go to the streets to protest against that. As expected, as said by Rutere and Mutai in 2023, that Kenyan police know better to deal with people brutally when such scenario happens. And as expected, that happened. And people died, and it continued, and the pressure increased until when now the government had to drop that bill down. However, the next slide, please. However, in Kenya, this was not the first time that the protests are happening. We are used to that. We just know during the previous election, we had to buy food, keep in the houses, thinking that it's going to happen. Then we finished that stock without any problem. And then later on, as we expected now, the time that we never expect that it's going to happen, then it happened. So it's a normal thing. But there is one unique thing with this particular protest. One, it was peaceful. People went to street peacefully, not like the previous ones. And that's why the police were not expected to do what they did. So the pressure kept increasing because now people are dying and so on and so forth. Now, another difference is that it was organic and it used technology. That's where now the use of AI and social media comes in. It was led by a hashtag Reject Finance Bill 2024, that during that time, it was #1 trending on Twitter and Instagram also. Yes. Now, there is the role of music in protests. And we have seen that happen in Kenya and beyond before. And it has happened in several ways. One, previous songs that are considered to be patriotic are normally chanted, if that's English, during the protests. Examples are Utawala by Juliani, Nikonja na siwezi karanga. Those are my fellow protesters. So, there is Tujiangalie by Sauti Sol. These songs were never meant for protest. They were just written for people to express whatever they're expressing. And then somehow they found a way to people's hearts and they used them to protest. We also have Daima Mkenya by Eric Wainaina and so on. But then there is another group of songs used during the protest, and these are reimagining or recreating previous songs into new songs. For example, gospel songs like Yote Yawezekana kwa Imani, people changed it to say Yote Yawezekana bila Ruto. Means, Yote Yawezekana kwa Imani means everything is possible by faith. But now people protesting against the president removed by faith and said everything is possible without this president, as they're protesting against the government. The same way, there is a famous melody by a pastor called Pastor Nganga. Wanapanga kutumaliza means they are planning to finish us. This was also chanted by people during the protests, saying that the police are planning to finish us due to the killings that were happening. However, there is another group of songs where people wrote specifically for the sake of that protest. There is one called Maandamano by Bien and Brida, if I'm not mistaken. There is another one called Gen Z by Wakadinali and Calligraph Jones and others. But now, the next slide. Now, one day I woke up, and as usual, I'm a Gen Z. I wake up, I look at my phone, and I find this song trending. Every other song, I know this is Bien's song, this is Wakadinali's song, this is whose song, but this one is just there hanging. Who is the artist? No one knows. Who is the producer? No one knows. It's just there. So I got curious, and I want to know what this song is. This song is titled Colonial Police. And there is a YouTube channel called Mr. Guy. I don't know if Guy is his name, but Mr. Guy. You can call me Mr. Guy. I can call you Mr. Guy. I can call you Mr. Guy. So I was like, why this? And who is this? That's where now I started doing this study. So I would want just a snippet of that song, kidogo tu, so that we can see what it is and how it sounds and the visual of that song. Technician, please. Slide 6. Play that video.
To protect and serve, not to bring us down. Why did you fire our unarmed youth? Why did you silence the voices of truth? Some may argue you act on orders, but what do you have brains for? In the US, officers took a stand, refused to oppress their homeland. Are you a police service or a colonial force? Serving the people or a brutal course? Till when will you be used and taught by politicians like toilet paper?
Thank you.
Are you a police?
Thank you, thank you. You can go search, it's called Colonial Police. It's on YouTube. Now, somehow, because I'm a researcher, I had to use all the resources I had to find this guy, and I finally found Mr. Guy. Then I asked him, how did you produce this music? And then he said, it's a mixture of AI and my own creation. And I was like, do you have any background in music? He was like, yeah, I'm a music producer, though not very experienced. I am a video editor. And I was like, but looking at this thing does not look like you did something but AI. And then he gave me a reason of why he used AI. And he said, and I quote, I used AI because it is quick and you get to choose the vocal and style. It's about versatility, he stated. Then, later on, as we continued with this conversation, the themes of anonymity and recognition came in. He said he did not want to be recognized because of the state of the nation, people being abducted, people worrying for their safety. So he wanted the sound to be faceless, just the way the movement was leaderless. So he also wanted the sound to be faceless so that as much as it's challenging the government, there is no one to pin down to that particular music because it's not his sound. I mean, it's not his voice. It's very hard to link it to him. So he said, at first I wanted to stay anonymous, but hey, the fear is gone. We have to stand for what's right, no matter the cost. So yes, I would like to get recognized. After all, I created it. And I wondered, okay, is it because I've asked you or you got to a point of now you decided to let it open? And he said, the realization that they prey on our fear and that fearless, we are 1,000,000 times more formidable. Besides, why fear when doing the right thing? So, now we get to a point where we understand that he used AI because of two main reasons. One, for the sake of making it easy to produce, and two, for the sake of anonymity. But now we get to a point where the anonymity does not matter anymore to him. But still, the message will remain there, whether with recognition or without recognition. But still we see that this AI helped the production. If AI was not there, probably he wouldn't have done that production. Why? Because he would have feared for his life. So the future implication of AI in protest art. We speculate, I speculate, that in the coming years, there will be more use of AI in such cases because, as stated by the respondent, who is Mr. Guy, who at this particular point he had already told me his name, which for the sake of ethics, I don't think I need to disclose that. According to him, it's very easy and simple and take shorter time to produce. So I'm thinking that in the future, when we are in need of mass production of such songs, AI will be a very useful tool. And the fact that every day the technology is evolving, we might even get to have better ways of doing that. Yeah, that's pretty much. And just to acknowledge is that each and every image you have seen there is also created by AI. And it was just a prompt, enter, loading, image, download, put it there. So also, more than 50% of this work I'm presenting here, okay, not the paper. Scholars, I'm sorry, not the paper. This work was also assisted by AI. Thank you for listening.
AI is going to make us jobless. Please clap for him again. To close the day, I want to invite an undergraduate student, Jerome. Jerome is complaining that he is hungry. I need to pay attention to this particular work. Where he got the thoughts from, I've got no idea. But just listen to him. Just listen to him. Jerome.
Asante sana daktari. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon one more time. Sorry for keeping you. I'm the reason why you're still here. So I won't keep you any longer. Let's get to it. This is my first paper that I've ever done. First off, I'm an undergraduate student, School of Music and Media, Kabarak University, Bachelor of Music, Theory, Composition, and Performance, and more so, I am a finalist. This is my final semester here, and so far, so good. Make music, sleep hungry. the intertwined relationship between the government of Kenya and the Kenyan music industry. The reason why I wrote this paper is because I am vested in the field of music performance, and I definitely want to venture into that area into that field. And I found this paper very close to my heart. So let's get to it. I hope you've read that. Sitaki kusoma hiyo. But I dedicate this paper to them. Every artist out there, every one of you in this room who is aspiring to be an artist, this paper is for you. And so is this presentation. So let's begin. History of the Kenyan music industry. So the Kenyan music industry has evolved, and music has been in existence pretty much for a very, very long time. If I give it a specific period in time, the pre-colonial era, where we had traditional music. For my fellow friends in the building and online friends, especially those of you that are here, whenever you pass by the School of Music and you find people playing some odd-looking drums or an odd-looking guitar that is not exactly a guitar, but it tends to look like a guitar, or something that is blown and looks like wood with holes in it, well, that is me speaking in layman's language, but that's traditional music, yes. Quite plain. That's traditional music, and that's where we started from. And that has morphed all the way to the current genre that we're experiencing in our country, which is genge music. That has also subbed down to gengeton, and currently we are at urbanton. So that's the long and short of that. Now, why do we have the Copyright Act of 2001? We have it because there was the need to protect artists' rights and interests whenever they make such kind of works. It came to the attention of the government at the time that musicians were not really being served equal pay and equal rights for whatever they did in the studios, whatever they did, and making music and putting it out there. So that's why the government of Kenya, under WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, came with the Copyright Act of 2001. Now, what does the Copyright Act of 2001 say? It's a very long bill, but genuinely it's to just enforce the laws of copyright. It's to protect the rights of the artists and the shareholders of music, both economic rights and moral rights, and to preserve cultural heritage. That is the function of the Copyright Act of 2001. And another thing maybe I'd advise all of you, get to know music laws. Very important if you're going to venture into the music industry. It's a very important thing to know. Now, despite this, over time we've seen that the government has failed in its efforts to respect Kenyan artists and give them their proper dues as it should. And maybe this is because of some few negligent people who are currently sitting in the seat of power and are currently using the institutions as their own cash cows, sadly. So in 2018 was a very important year. 2018 is when we saw the rise of a very explosive wave. All of us were alive at the time, definitely, yeah, definitely. In 2018 I was in high school when a certain group called Ethic dropped a song called Lamba Lolo. I'm pretty sure everyone remembers that. I definitely do, and I loved that song, I still do. The video was shot by a phone, and it did numbers, 5 million views on YouTube to date. That was the surge of a new burst of a very exciting genre known as gengeton. Gengeton is a subgenre of genge. Genge is a genre that was established by two people, Jua Kali and Clement, also known as Bitia Clemo, Calif Records from California, Isli. They are the ones who founded genge music. So another important year, 2016, was a year where we had one of the three major showdowns between the Kenyan music industry and the government of Kenya. And this was with an Afro band called Elani. It's a trio. A lady called Maureen Kunga, a lady called Wamboi, and a a guy called Edward Chwenya, who is also a lawyer. So they went ahead to sue the MCSK. MCSK is Music Copyright Society of Kenya for falsely paying them or underpaying them for what was deemed a successful year. This was between the year 2014 and 2015. And maybe I can just name a few songs that really blasted the airplays back then. And that was Kuku and Milele by Ilani. There's also Zuzu remix. I'm pretty sure you guys know these songs. Most of you are definitely in the adolescent phase, so you definitely sang to your girlfriend Kuku. Yeah, definitely. I did. I'm guilty as charged. So that's to tell you how well the song was doing in airplay. And over time, the CMOs, this is the CMOs are used to collect royalties and pay them out to artists. They've faced criticism for how they've handled their business, and especially the MCSK, which directly deals with artists and music performers, and music that is played in the radios and media broadcasting companies. So they've constantly faced criticism, and Elani was one of the major 3 showdowns that took place. The first showdown, this was the second one. The first one was in 2014 with an artist known as Ringtone. Tenda wema nenda zako we usisahau Mungu anaona. That artist. And he featured Christina Shusho. He rallied all the musicians at the time to protest against MCSK and the bullying that they have been doing. To date, actually, they're still doing it. And the third showdown was actually led by an artist known as Naiboy. He did a 3-part song called Sondeka, 1, 2, 3. Tunawasondeka, yeah, tunawasondeka. Yeah, you remember that. The media has played a huge role in bringing to light issues to do with the MCSK and how they've been dealing with artists. And majorly, one I took to heart was when, and may he rest in peace, John DeMezio, a Benga artist, passed away. He passed away in 2019, and in the burial service in attendance was the then president, the 4th president of our republic, Uhuru Kenyatta. That aside, the government has tried to fix this situation time and time again, but it hasn't been able to do it successfully. Now, let's go to an interesting part. This is where I give you a lecture, a public lecture, but not a long one, not a 3-hour lecture, just a public lecture on the structure of the Kenyan music industry. So with me here is 5 of them. This is what entails the music industry. We have the Kenya Copyright Board, that is the major umbrella, that is the huge, that is hiyo ndio ile kubwa. Then under the Kenya Copyright Board, we have RIKI, Recording Music Industry of Kenya. We have CAMP, Kenya Association of Music Producers. We have PAVRISC, Performing and Audiovisual Rights Society of Kenya. And we have MCSK, the Music Copyright Society of Kenya. Get that. It's very important for you to know those, by the way, if you're going to be an artist in the performing sector. Let's start with the big one, Kenya Copyright Board. The following are their mandates or functions in this country. They observe overall administration and enforcement of copyright and related rights. They ensure public awareness, they enforce it, and they encourage registration of copyrights. They license collective management organizations. They are in charge of licensing CAMP, PAVRISC, MCSK, and RIKI. They are the ones who solely, under the Copyright Act of 2001, I'll always be referring to that because that's the law now. Ukienda kwa Constitution of Kenya utaipata hapo. And most importantly, they educate. So the keywords here is public awareness, licensing, educate, and enforcement of the copyright laws. That is KEKOBO, majorly known as KEKOBO. Next, we have Kenya Association of Music Producers, known as CAMP. It's not the oldest, actually, but it was incorporated in 2003. This one deals specifically with music producers. A music producer in the house, I can see one of them, Mixila, over there, in the console. Yeah, and I know Ike's also. And this is CAMP. So Mixila, Ike's, you should definitely register here. This is where you'll get your royalties when you make songs for people. They distribute royalties to the said parties in accordance with the Copyright Act laws, and it was granted license to do so by Kekobo in 2008. Just a brief history of CAMP. Next, we have PAVRISC, Performing and Audiovisual Rights Society of Kenya. Two major functions. The main one would be to represent the rights of holders of music and audiovisual works through collections of license fees and distribution of royalties. It was licensed by the regulator, Kekobo, and mandated according, of course, to the copyright laws of 2001. And finally, we have we have Music Copyright Society of Kenya, MCSK. MCSK majorly deals with music composers, music authors, publishers, and music performers. And its mandate is to license the public use of music, to collect royalties, and to distribute. Three things: license, collect, distribute. Simple job. Kazi yao tu ni hiyo. And finally, we have the newest body. This is RIKI. RIKI is the Recording Music Industry of Kenya. They have a few mandates. The first one is issuance of ISRCs. What is an ISRC? An ISRC is an International Standard Recording Code. And this is more like a serial number. When you go to the supermarket and you have a serial number, then they just place it in that thing and it bleeps, teet, 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 as it then the price. So that's exactly what it is. And in the digital era of streaming music, an ISRC is a very important thing to have. So it's a tag that is put on your music to be able to collect royalties and to link the money used for airplay in the streaming to that song with that specific code, ISRC. Establishment of music chart certification in line with RIAA. RIAA now is the umbrella or the model from which RIKI has been formed. RIAA is based in the United States of America. I'm trying to remember what RIAA means. I know A means Association of America, but R and I am not so sure I remember. But their main of the RIAA, their main work is to give certifications for when music does well in terms of individual sales. Now, another thing we are going to talk about very briefly is music sales and music streams. Two different things. When a person sells 10 million singles, that means every person bought that music. 10 million people bought that song, not streamed. Streamed is very different. And with RIAA, the method of how to go about it is usually for every 6 streams equates to almost $1 or $1 or so. So that's how they make the balance between when you go buy a physical copy and when you stream. In America, buying physical copies is still a thing. They do that very oftenly, especially with the vinyls. They advocate for best practice with CMOs for sound producers. They defend, develop, and preserve rights of producers of sound recordings and audiovisual recordings in Kenya. Still in line with CAMP, but specifically, RIKI, just as RIAA, they advocate for things to do with, matters to do with AI. ASA was just doing a research on that specific note. So that is their work, to defend producers and artists in general from such. So let's talk about the current landscape of the music industry as of 2024. So the following are just the major points, and I'll just read them out as I explain some. MCSK has known to spend up to 70% of its income on administration and using the remaining 30% to distribute to the rest of its members. So normally, when you register yourself as a member of the MCSK, you're supposed to receive royalties for when your music is making rounds on airplay, on radio, on advertising companies and such and such. You're supposed to receive an annual, it's usually paid annually or at least quarterly, if not half. There's a way they do it. I'm not sure about the structure of MCSK and how they pay it. But that's how it's supposed to be. So normally, it's supposed to be the other way around, where 70% is used to distribute to artists and 30% is used to cater for administration fees. But with MCSK, yeah, That's the current state of our music industry, that right there. That's why people are complaining. Currently, as we speak, this is as of July 2024, by the way, Kekobo has issued a single license to Pavrisk. Pavrisk is one of the CMOs under Kekobo, a docket which was highly contended by its counterparts, CMOs, CAMP, and MCSK. Now, a very important detail right there. Let me just explain it. You remember Pavrisk, right? You remember CAMP and you remember MCSK. Now, normally Kekobo licenses all of them together to do their separate functions. But this time around June 2024, Kekobo just issued a single license to Pavrisk to perform all the tasks that I've just read out for you previously. And once that happened, CAMP went ahead and took to court the issue. And Pavrisk has actually been given a stay order from collecting royalties until the issue has been resolved. This is by the High Court of Kenya. Kekobo has also been known for the longest time to have an insincere approach to the licensing of CMOs in Kenya. And the last statement is something I've just explained in part. Reiki was launched in October 2023, so it's still relatively new in Kenya and still onboarding members in Kenya. We wish them all the best. That is a very important body, by the way. I hope it works out, because in the long run, if they create things like certification charts and they partner with people like billboards, we'll be able to have a structure on how to pay someone's royalties, depending on how much their music has been played again and again on the airplays. So we move on to a subtopic right there. We'll expound in detail. Corruption and self-interest have riddled the systems in charge of collecting royalties, distributing them to shareholders. My research bases on a specific period of time that is between 2016, when Elani launched their case against the MCSK, and 2020, when COVID suddenly hit us. A very unfortunate time. Between the years 2016 and 2020, MCSK has collected an insurmountable amount of royalties. In 2016, they were able to record a high of 450 million in terms of gross income of funds collected. In a financial year alone, 450 million, and only 100 million was used to distribute to artists who are registered to the CMO. Now, I don't know about you. You might think 100 million is a lot, but do the math. 100 million is not even 30% of the total funds collected. It's about 22.2%. And normally, you're supposed to distribute around, at least in the region of 300 million to artists if you've collected 450 million. That will equate to at least in the region of 65 to 70%, which is the way it's supposed to go. But with MCSK, they only did 100 million. That is not even 30%, not even close. It's 22. And in the same light, in the same year 2016, when Elani decided to sue the MCSK for receiving a mere 30,000 in a successful year they had between 2014 and 2015. No, hear this. Yeah, I know, unbelievable. MCSK used an upward of 70 million Kenya shillings on board expenses. This is to fund their meetings, whenever they're having meetings and everything. And at one point in time, Kekobo did report that they had like 52 meetings in a year. And yeah, they put aside 70 million for that. Well, on the other hand, a trio of artists who've done extremely well on airplay receive a mere 30,000 Kenya shillings. You can see the gap and the mismatch. And then you wonder why artists are out here crying that there's a problem. This is exactly the problem. Right there. That same year, another thing happened that was very odd. Around 10 million shillings was set aside by the board, by the CMO, MCSK, to cater for legal fees. Now, MCSK, CAMP, Pavrisk, then it was called PRISC, and Kekobo were often having back and forth legal battles amongst each other. And it has been for the longest time. About 3 times I remember MCSK got its license to collect music revoked. And at one point in time, all of them got their licenses revoked. I think it was still around 2019, if I'm not wrong. So there's that too. So if you find yourself as a company putting aside 10 million Kenya shillings for legal fees, that already raises questions on matters to do with legitimacy and how effective you are in your work. Like, are you really delivering if you keep having court cases that you need to fund? And you're funding it at the behest of artists who keep making music, and they need to make bread out of that music. By making bread, I mean making money. They need to feed their families. They all have children, and they have things to do, you know? And another important thing, because of their illegitimacy and their arrogance and how they run the CMO, that is MCSK, industry shareholders such as broadcasters and media companies refute from paying 10% in advertising revenue, as they do not trust the CMO to use the funds in its intended purposes. Now, normally, MCSK will demand at least 10% in advertising revenue to be paid to them so that they can be able to distribute the money equally to artists. Now, don't get me wrong, there's no problem with that. That's actually the right way to go about it. But big companies will normally pay flat annual rates because they know the money will not be used well. Now, why would I pay you 10% only for you to go and put it somewhere else, somewhere that is only benefiting you and a few others? And those, you and a few others were not even involved in the music making process. Also, another thing, they legitimately refuse to submit their logbooks to show how music has been played in the radio. Now, normally, when a radio runs from, it's like an 8 to 5 a.m. job, right? Where music is played by specific radio presenters who will be there. So for every time a track has been on rotation in a radio station, there's supposed to be a logbook to show that this song has appeared in our radio station this number of times a day. And that spreads across several radio stations that we have in our country. So, sir, that is the case with radio only. I've not ventured into TV and others, just radio, just radio. And the reason they fail to do this is because, of course, if you're going to submit something proper to an improper functioning system, they're just going to loot it. So, of course, they've also decided, no, we are not going to go that direction. But who is suffering in the end? Nyasi, also known as Vita vya Panzi, Kunguru huumia. Yeah. That is the artists. Small-scale business owners, such as restaurant, bars, matatu culture, need to license music to play need to have license to even play music. Now, matatu culture is very prominent in our country. And by matatu culture, namaanisha nganya. When you have the matatus that play the loud music, you know, the pump music, yeah? That is, you need license to play such kind of things in a matatu. Now, if the police system in our country was working properly, you'd see that in action. But of course it doesn't, so you'd rather bribe them and they'll just fall quiet about it. And that's exactly what happens. Bribery, you know? And that also is another way in which artists are not getting their dues, because someone somewhere is being bribed and they are not enforcing the law. Now, another important thing, Kekobo has also failed immensely in creating public awareness, as well as educating masses on copyright laws and intellectual property. Just like you, there was a time I didn't know things like this existed. I thought someone just makes music and magically gets money, or magically becomes like Rihanna, where you suddenly just bowling. You go to a concert, you sing, and you come out happy and rich. Well, kumbe that's not the case. There's more to it. That's when I started learning about the CMOs. And you'll discover that many Kenyans, even most of us sitting here and our online friends, do not even know of such kind of things. And this also contributed gravely in the Gengeton era, where artists were making hits after hits after hits, having several rounds of airplane radio, but they were still getting nothing. Why? They never even registered in any CMO. No CAMP, no PAVRISC, no MCSK. Why? They didn't know such kind of things existed. Why? Because Kekobo did not set funds aside to create public awareness, to educate the masses on copyright laws. And I know some of you have actually known this today. And that's as serious as it sounds, you know? You're a university student. You're probably doing music, just like I. and you don't even know of this, but you actually want to be a performing artist in the near future. This is exactly how you suffer. Ignorance. But that ignorance is not even your fault. It's really also Kekobo's fault. They're supposed to do this on a daily. It's like when IEBC starts doing mass education, voters, public awareness and education, civic education on voting. They start doing it like when we have elections in 2027, August, they start doing it somewhere around April and not right now. Somewhere around April, not everyone will know how to vote. And that's why you find some of you guys don't even vote, because you see, it's the same ideal, the same idea. And let's talk about the last point. Now, the government of Kenya, though seen in few instances trying to actively fix the issue, has genuinely failed in the long run and is yet to find a lasting solution in the plague. The reason why I've fixed 2016 to 2020 is because that year, 2019, when John DeMario died, Uhuru Kenyatta, the fourth president, former president of our country, was in attendance at the burial. And he made some few changes and made some few promises, which by the way were fulfilled. And that includes the disbursing of 100 million Kenyan shillings. Now, this specific one, the disbursing of 100 Kenyan million shillings, came when COVID hit our country. And, you know, everyone was at home, including artists whose way of getting bread or of making bread is by going out and singing to the masses, entertaining people. Now they were all at home. And times were hard then, but it was even harder to them. And then Uhuru Kenyatta proposed a disbursement of 100 million to cushion all artists registered under all CMOs, CAMP, MCSK, PRISC. And while that happened, the cushion was very, how do I say it? King Kaka wrote a tweet, akisema, I have just received my 19,000 Kenyan shillings from the COVID cushion. That's King Kaka, my guy. You know, he also had his period of stardom. I remember it was somewhere between 2017 when he did Don't Go, I'm Kujaing, I'm Dundaing. You remember that song? It was a famous one. The guy received 19,000, so just like everyone else actually. But this particular one was meant to balance the scales. It wasn't going to be distributed on matters of whose music is being played more than whose. It was just something that was going to be flat, equal to everyone. Well, on the government side, that seems like a positive, but if you look at it, is it really a positive if you're receiving 19,000? 19,000, bro. 19,000 inafanyanga shopping ya nyumba pekee. Hiyo bed sitter. Hata usiongelewa watoto. Ni pesa kidogo sana. That's the issue there. Now, let's talk about recommendations. What I think should be the solution, or what might work into solving some of our incumbent issues that we have in our country in regards to the music industry. Number one, the government of Kenya, also known as the GOK, should issue out a 1% of its GDP to further growth of arts, sports, and entertainment in our country. This will go a long way in creating long-lasting establishments that will preserve our cultural heritage and expose it to our world. This is me being futuristic. Walk with me. You guys know what a GDP is, I believe. So in Korea, wherever they do, because they had the support of the government, first and foremost. And I believe this is a mistake our government did when Gengeton actually came out. They were not able to see in hindsight that this would go a long way if they invested in the music sector by giving out 1% of its GDP. And in the future, when you do such kind of a thing, this is what I call a long-term goal. We start having things like art museums, which are specifically tailored to preserve culture. For example, if a Kenyan wins a Grammy right now, that will become the first Grammy to ever be won by a Kenyan. I don't know, East African? Yeah, definitely, East African. The first Grammy was won in 2011 by the first African Grammy was won in 2011, a Nigerian artist. Forgotten the name, but it was in 2011. And over time, I've seen many Nigerian artists go ahead to win several Grammys. Davido has them, Burna Boy, Wizkid, Tems has a Grammy. but someone like Sauti Sol doesn't have a Grammy. Soweto Gospel Music Choir from South Africa, they have 3 Grammys, 3. That shows we have a problem. Our systems are not working, man. 3 Grammys for a gospel choir. That should show you the reach in which we need to start waking up and call out these people. Now, if someone goes ahead and wins a Grammy, that will be big news in our country. I don't know, maybe South Africans could tell us how big it was when they had news that someone has won a Grammy and it was the first Grammy ever to be won. I believe South Africa has really evolved in their music sector because we really do enjoy some of their music. I personally love a rapper called Nasty C. So, yeah. And public awareness and civic engagement should be the order of the day with Kekobo. They should be lining out funds and setting it aside to always ensure they reach out to everyone everywhere, in universities, in city halls, in kamukunjis, to just educate people on copyright laws and intellectual property. A classic example of intellectual property is when Atwoli said this famous, okay, I can't even say it. No, I can't even say it. Wow, I can't say it. But in Jeff Koinange Live, there was a famous term he said when he was like, that one, I can't say it though, I can't say it because he placed it under intellectual property and now you'll need permission from him to use that. And because this is something big, I can't really say it. And another one is Ruto, our current president, the 5th president of the Republic, when he was saying, mambo ni mangapi. Yeah. Let's cut that out. Yeah, so he also licensed that, and you can't actually use that in music or in anything without his permission. And whenever you use it in advertising or anything else, he gets a cut of it. So that's intellectual property for you. They understand it. Do you? Food for thought. Drain the swamp. Personally, I just feel like we've had enough of these people, and it's time they go home. Some of them, I'm pretty sure they've not even had an ounce of music education, yet I can see bright souls here, bright minds over here, people who are actually doing the course called music, production, performing arts, film and theater. And then there's someone here who never even did any of that, but somehow he's sitting in the high power and gets to decide who gets money and who doesn't. Sad, but that's where we are right now. Revise the Copyright Act of 2001 to incorporate new mechanisms that will help fight digital warfare with the incumbent AI looming around. Now, AI serves to be a double-edged sword. It does both good and both bad. And a previous case study by Asa Jile Mwakalinga, you've seen what he was looking into. That's AI for you. And you can imagine the further much damage it does if there are no policies put in place to cap that kind of technology. AI is going to be the next big thing, by the way. But how we go around it as artists is very important, because you can imagine if your voice is singing something else and someone is getting paid for that. Trust me, that's serious. That's very serious. You're out here singing, na 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 na. Then someone picks that voice and sings and places it in something else, something like reggae. You're a pop artist, but your voice is singing a certain reggae song somewhere. But because the country does not really realize that it needs to cap laws to prevent such kind of things, it keeps happening and you keep losing revenue. And he gets paid, whoever used your sound to make a reggae song, because it's very huge, and because yours isn't that huge, they won't consider you as original. Now, who will be original between the two? Because they really sound similar, if you ask me. Expenditure and budget planning should be done efficiently and effectively to specifically benefit the artists who toil hard to entertain Wanjiko. For the guests, for our online friends, Wanjiko is the term used to refer to the citizens of Kenya. It's the political term used to refer to the citizens of Kenya. Wanjiko needs to eat. Wanjiko anafaa kununua unga. So Wanjiko. And also in my research paper, that's a keyword. So I inserted it here so that when you get to interact with my research paper, you'll know that's Wanjiko, the citizens of Kenya. So with expenditure and budget planning, when you are as a CMO is doing 70% on board expenses, 70 million on board expenses, 10 million on legal fees and someone is getting 30,000. No, let me set that right. 30,000 among us 3 people. They're supposed to split that equally. 30,000, watu watatu. Elani, it's a trio. 3 people. Wanapewa 30,000 for a successful year where they had their play. And yet, the CMO is using 70 million on board expenses. There's even travel and accommodation. Now, let's say, for example, if our keynote speaker today was to come here. No, let me not go that direction. So, Wanjiko to receive education on the value of intellectual property, as well as changing the narrative of musicians as well as changing the narrative musicians do not deserve to be paid. Across time, especially in Africa, but especially more so in our country, Kenya, artists are known to serve one primary role, and that is to entertain. That's exactly what we do. We entertain. When the vocal ensemble came here and sang that song, they entertained. When Dr. Melsi came here, she entertained. When the band was here doing Sukari, they entertained. When Maxwell sang Sukari, he entertained. When Jeffa sang the gospel song, he entertained. Entertainer. That's the first and most primary role music serves in any society across the globe. That's how important it is. Entertainment, to entertain the masses. But across the years, Wanjiko has never really felt the need to pay their artists for entertaining them. And that's sad. Well, let me just give you, in hindsight, music is like a white-collar job, like any other job. When a lawyer goes to school and goes to KSL and passes the bar, they become a law practitioner. And for every court case they do, they get paid. So when an engineer does their 5 years of an engineering course, they start doing, and they do their attachments and they get employed and they start doing civil engineering, architectural engineering. Whenever they do these kind of things, they get paid. Huge sums even. Same case with music. When you go to the studio, could be any time of the day, because with music there's no 8 to 5. It's really however you feel best. With your producer, he lays out the track, you lay out your vocals, he mixes it, he masters it, and it's released. And you guys feed on that content. Expect him to be paid. You deserve to pay him. And let me also put this out in light right now. Stop downloading music from illegal sites. Akina Tubidi, akina MP3 Juice, wacheni. Hiyo ni tabia mbaya. Nyinyi ndio mnafanya watu walale njaa. You're also contributing. Oh, in English, you guys are the reason why people are sleeping hungry out here, because you're downloading music from illegal sites. Stop it. Wacha. Stop. Sawa. Stop. Seriously though, don't do that. That's low. Respect us. Respect our course. We are here for 4 years for a reason. Na nimevaa hivi vizuri ndio nikae serious. We are here for 4 years for a reason. Sawa. And the end course of what we do as music students is to go out there and entertain you. So when we do entertain you and you leave the place feeling happy, or when you plug your pods in your ears and you listen to my song and you listen to it 100 times a day, that is me entertaining you. That was not easy. I was on repeat in your ears all day. Kutoka kwako mpaka shule. So respect them. That's serious. That's as serious as it sounds. That's as serious as a lawyer sitting down and trying to figure out a loophole to save someone from going to jail, as if their life depended on it. Sorry, that was a lecture I needed to do. A partnership at university level between the art school and the law school to bring two worlds together, further fostering literacy in music laws and eradicating the aspect of ignorance amongst the youth. So I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. Most of us really don't know much about the copyright laws. Better yet, the laws of Kenya. That's my final point, actually. So let me just expand on this. Recently, this one goes out to actually the school leaders, our dear guests, Dr. Moshere, Dr. Rimonte, and Dean, Professor Melitus in his absentia. We actually had an engagement with the School of Law this year, sometime back in the January-April semester, and they were doing something around the 7 schools for a certain week. And on Thursday, they happened to be in the School of Music and Media. And that happened to be the most interesting conversation that has ever come about. It was at 4 p.m. in a rehearsal room. I'm pretty sure some of you were there and you remember what we were talking about. We were expounding on things and they happened to, and it came to my attention that most of the people doing law in our school, and that could be a general representation of everyone doing law, really don't know much about music laws. They don't think that's an area to venture into. 3 classic examples. Nonini recently took to court to sue a guy called Brian Mutinda, for using his music without his permission. And he got 5 million in compensation. 4 million first, then akarudi koti tena kusema that was not enough. So damages ikaongezwa, ikakuwa a total of 5 million. 2 court cases, 5 million. You as a lawyer, if a lawyer is anywhere there listening, or a law enthusiast, how much do you think you're supposed to get from 5 million? It's a lot. Come on. Music laws are important. And you guys need to know your laws, and they need to know that too. So whenever we have such kind of partnerships between the 2 schools, they'll get to learn about us, and we'll get to learn about them. And by them I mean laws. That's what they are doing right now. They're learning about the law of the country, the law of the land. Music laws is a very important thing. So many music laws. I'm so copyright. But if you ever come up with a sound that is very famous and is trending, just put it under intellectual property. You won't miss. Conclusion. This paper is something I'm very proud of personally. And it's something that I decided to do way back with my supervisor, who was our then lecturer, Madam Jacqueline Maina. She was taking us through research methods. And when I did my first paper, it was lawsuits in music, in Kenyan music, in the Kenyan industry. And that morphed to what we have now. And that is my paper. Get to learn more about the Kenyan music industry scope, how it is right now, through my eyes, through the eyes of everyone else who is aware of what's going on, and let us learn to be more aware of such kind of things. Ngoja, nisikize kwanza. Hii ni important. Niangalie. Get to know your rights as an artist. It's very important when you go out there. It will really matter in the long run. This is a plea to you guys. Get to know the laws. Get to know your rights. Get to know what you deserve. You deserve to be paid. You deserve to be paid. You as someone who is listening to the artist, you deserve to pay the artist the right way. Don't stream their music illegally. Don't do that. Okay? It's a plea. Kindly. I believe there's a reason we'll see a better times in our industry. We will get there. People are pushing from all sides. Right now I've seen 3 major artists submit their songs for Grammy considerations. I've seen Octopizzo, I've seen BN, I've seen Savara, and I've seen a few others. They might get nominated, they might not, but that's a huge step going somewhere. So there is potential in the industry. We just need to fix the few systemic errors that are incumbent there. Thank you. That was my time.
Nasikia venye ako passionate. Hata nyinyi mmeguzwa kidogo. Band, si mtu chipape muziki hapa kidogo. We are finishing. Come closer. We are finishing. Band, give us some music or... Anyway, I don't want to belabor points. I want to call upon anyone who has got questions for any presenter. Questions on Shifasi. Question on Jerome presentation. Any questions? We don't lock you out. Yes. Peleka mic pale. Kuna mic hapo. Amkeni. Then you say the question is for who? After the question, then there is Sofola. also has a question.
Okay, my question is to Mr. Milanzi about the music education system in Malawi. He said that there's no music in primary and secondary level. Most of the people start at the university level, and it's not that evolved, which makes them do it as a minor, where there's lack of music educators. So, is the problem the system? Because if there were a number of music educators, I believe we will have more people doing music from primary to secondary so that they continue at the university level. And also, if the system is not the problem, could the from where the students come from, let's say from home, if there is where the problem is. For instance, most of my classmates, they're doing music because they wanted to. Most of them did music in high school, and most of them are doing music as an art in itself. And my parents didn't want me to do arts, music arts as its own, but if the problem is from home, what are the educators doing for the children who want to pursue music as an art on its own and itself? And he also said that there is a big gap between the music industry and the education system, which raises the question where the problem lies. Is it the music industry in Malawi? Because in Kenya, the music industry, most of them didn't go through the musical education system, because as most of the artists, but you can find that the artists who didn't do music are doing well, but since the music education is more evolved now, we get more of the music educators doing or pursuing the art itself and coming up with their own music, like the madam from South Africa. Sorry, I don't know her name. So the question is, sorry, before I get to the question, the music industry itself, the way it carries itself, it can be a problem as to the way the adults see the way the music system is. That's why they don't allow their children to pursue music as an art. So I think that's why there's a gap between the education system and the industry. So my question is, what are the measures put in place in Malawi to see to it that the gap is reduced so that the industry and the education are aligned together? Yeah, that's my question.
My question is to Dr. Mazivandila about Chifazi music. From the video evidence of the performance that was played some minutes ago, there is the idea of cultural universalism and as well as cultural, I've forgotten the other one now. That has to do with people interpreting their culture the way they see it. But what I saw in that video brought a question in my mind, and that question is, how does the cultural environment regulate between that performance and sexual immorality? Thank you.
Okay. Do we have two questions? Do we have more questions? Yes, there's a question here. There's another one there. Questions are coming. Microphone.
Thank you. Mine is a question and also a concern. When I came here, I knew that when Kizungu bana. I'll change my language, sorry. Niliingia katika maofisi hapa shule kuulizia kama nikimaliza kozi yangu naweza kuingia darasani kufunza mziki. Lakini nikaambiwa TSC haiwezi nipatia kazi kwa sababu sikufanya music high school, kitu kama hiyo. Like, kuna njia ambazo zinaweza kutokea mimi kuingia darasani kufunza mziki. So hilo ni swali la kwanza. La pili, kama nimemaliza kusoma mziki, naweza kuingia katika bandi ya kijeshi pasipo kuingia katika uwanja wa vita, ama ni vipi? Hilo ndio swali langu. Asante.
Swali lako la kwanza litajibiwa na head of department. The second question, nataka mwanajeshi pale atakujibu. Yeah? Sababu ako na band. Sawa. There's another question somewhere here. Pia na pale.
Okay, good evening. I'm also trying to remember her name, the guest from South Africa. Oh, my question goes to Dr. Messi. I'm a lover of South African music, and from back then you realize that South African sound, ever since from Brenda Fassie, there has not been a change, like a lot of change, like or difference. So my question to her is, how has South Africa tried to ensure that their sound really remains the way it sounds, even despite the times that have changed?
My question goes to Jerome regarding the illegal streaming of music. So my question is, what can we do to abolish those the illegal streaming websites like 2BD? Because I believe as long as they are there, people will download music illegally. And not maybe just for music, also movies and things like that. So how do we go about preventing that as a whole, which I think would be abolishing those sites to download the music illegally?
Mine is not a question, but looking at online people here, I see Mr. Milanzi is not there. And because I come from a country with a similar problem and a neighboring country to Malawi, I would like to answer that question. First of all, not having music education in schools is not a problem by itself. Remember, the idea of us going to school to study music is a westernized idea. Kenya was a settler colony. Countries like Tanzania were protectorates. Means the whites were not living there. So there is less Western culture left in those countries than in Kenya. So what happens, they believe that the cultural ways of studying music should keep happening. So the negative side is, when we want to pursue music, now the only chance we get to do that is in the tertiary institutions from college and above. The positive side is we get to maintain our traditional sounds. That's why you will hear places like Tanzania. When you hear Tanzanian music, you know this is Tanzanian music. But in Kenya, I was giving an example. In my class of African music ensemble, I asked everyone, what is your instrument? And they both they all mentioned guitar and piano. So to them, litungu is not an instrument, but they do play. So it's not a problem in a way, although can be termed as a problem in a way. And it is because of the inheritance of the culture. So Kenya, there is this influence of Western culture. That's why there is a Western way of studying music. However, other countries are picking. I hope mine also will. Thank you.
The microphone was that side. Mbona unaleta swali baadaye?
My question goes to the soldier mwanajeshi there. Earlier he said that the Westerners said that our music was like Churchill coffin. So what's the impact that we took their music? Yeah, what's the impact? Because they had this vague idea that our music was coffin. What has changed our society through taking their music?
Okay. The first question has been answered. Okay. You want to answer when you're here?
Thank you. The first question, if I still remember it very well, it was talking about how is the relationship, how sexual activity is involved there. Yeah, what I have presented here, I was talking about the preservation, originality of Chifasi. I indicated that Chifasi is a traditional music genre of Venda people, which is performed by boys and girls. Despite its role in the entertainment and socialization of Bavenda children, Chifasi remains understudied. In other words, it's overlooked, it's not yet studied. That is why I choose to study about Chifasi. Its originality, people are losing it, that originality of Chifasi. It was not performed like the way you saw it there. That was the game. They were just performing it for marks, for competitions, which is originally, it was not performed for competitions or for money. It was performed just for entertainment. And children were not performing it the way it was. This is how it was. It is, that is why I'm saying it's disappearing, in other words. So this was an example of how it is performed. I indicated that if they are playing that game, boys stand on the other side, girls on the other side. What they do is to move to one boy moved to another line to pick a girl, not the way it is today. Right? Yes, there was no sexual activity about that. And the second one, it was talking about the sound. You said something, Brenda. Can you please repeat? I didn't understand the question. It's not clear.
Hakuna microphone ingine.